Reading Shri Sai Ram Gita Vahini by Bhagwan Shri Satya Sai Baba. Chapter 15. God is the doer as well as the experiencer. Karma too is of my Swarupam. I manifest myself in the form of karma, said Lord Krishna to the great consternation of Arjuna. He made it clear that karma too is divine. Of his essence, Arjuna, it is enough if you realize that Brahman, Adhyatam and Karma, all three, are of my Swarupam, or Lord's own forms. Knowledge of this will confer release and you can attain mukti or liberation. You need not worry about the rest, said Krishna, as if he wanted to avoid further discussion. Evidently, Krishna wanted to take the chariot into the ranks of the foes and start the conflict, for time was flying fast. But Arjuna was adamant he was different. Ordinary men would not have argued even so long with Krishna. Arjuna was the right interrogator for Krishna, and Krishna was just the right teacher for Arjuna. In fact, they are Nara and Narayana, man and God. Hence, this kind of dialogue is possible only between them, and it is not possible for others. Arjuna was not content to leave the matter at that. He is not content with Krishna's persuasive talk. Tell me about the meaning 3 also, O Lord, he pleaded. Save me from the coils of doubt, he prayed. Destroy the darkness and reveal to me your reality, he insisted. At this, Krishna melted with compassion. He fondly stroked Arjuna's back and replied, Do not grieve. I shall tell you all. Adibhutam, about which I mentioned, is not such a formidable tangle. It is something quite within the reach of all. Everything that decays and dies, everything that has rupa, name and form, is included in Adibhutam. To put it in other words, Adibhutam is Apara Prakriti. All these dehams or embodied things are Adibhutam. In spite of this, they are not different from me, said Krishna. Pausing meaningfully, he did not continue the exposition. The playful acts of the Lord are known only to him. No one else can make out their meaning and purpose. Attempting to unravel them is a fruitless task. They, all embodied things, are not different from me. At these words, Arjuna was petrified with surprise. His head became heavy with doubt. His intelligence was befogged. His conviction was shaken. Doubts multiplied in his mind in frightening sequence. Why did he get so jittery and confused? What was the reason for all this upset? After declaring, I am the Sat Chit Ananda, absolute existence, pure consciousness, eternal bliss, the Satyam Nityam, ever existing and changeless principle, I am indestructible and beyond birth and death, Krishna made the devastating admission that he was the temporary, transitional, destructible Deham or material body also. This was the cause of all this confusion in Arjuna's mind. Anyone would be confounded by doubt at these conflicting statements. Krishna laughed as he saw Arjuna's plight, and so Arjuna felt ashamed, restless and baffled, and was looking at him like a madcap. Still, since Lord Krishna had no intention of causing further delay, and since he knew the source of Arjuna's dilemma, he immediately set about resolving the doubt. Arjuna, why do you feel lost? You are confounded because I said that I am the temporary Deham too, is it? Common folk too will be shocked on hearing this. The comprehension of this concept is not easily achieved by all individuals. This Deham, which is temporary, transitional and transient, has affinity with me. I am the ultimate adharam or base from which it springs. Without me, the deham or the body can never be. This will become clear to you on a resume of its origins. Listen to the story of the origins of the body, which clarifies the mystery. The gross body is primarily indebted for its emergence to the annam of food that the parents consume, isn't it? Where was this annam in its previous form? Its previous form is Prithvi. From the Prithvi or the earth element, the grains and other materials which grew on the earth, and the earth, the Prithvi element, it evolved from Jala Tattvam, the water element. Tracing back, we find that the Jala Tattvam emerged from Agni or the fire element, the Agni from Vayu, air, wind, the Vayu from Akasha, and the Akasha from Maya or beginningless power, and the medium of the Lord composed of the three gunas, Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. That Maya is merely my Upadhi or manifesting medium. Did you follow Maya? My Upadhi became Akasha. The Akasha got transformed into Vayu. The Vayu changed into Agni. The Agni into Jala. The Jala became Prithvi or earth. The earth grew grains of food. The food developed into Deham. So it is clear, isn't it, that the temporary, transitional and transient Deham too is myself. Why should you entertain any doubt on this point? Therefore, I am Adhibhutam also as much as I am, as I said before, Brahman, Adhyatam and Karma based on the principle of cause and effect. I am the primal cause of all these Dehams, that is Adhibhutam. I am the Paramatma. Next is Adhidevam. In every physical city called Deham, the divine personality named Hiranyagarbha, the indweller of all bodies, the original source of the cosmos, the supreme being, the one in whom consciousness shines from within, is immanent. In other words, the one who is immanent in every Deham is called Hiranyagarbha. Just as a man is served by his indriyas or senses, the Hiranyagarbha is served by the senses called Adhidevatas. You might wonder who these Adhidevatas are. They are Devatas or gods who are Shakti Swarupas or the embodiments of energy or power. They are the Paricharakas or the servants of the Lord. That is to say, the eye is illumined by Surya, the sun god, the ear by the deities of the quarters, Indra, the chief of the celestial ruler of heaven, motivates the hand. These and such other presiding deities are the senses of Hiranyagarbha. However great a sadhaka might be, whatever eminence he might have reached, he can attain Uttama Gati or Uttama Sthiti, highest state or position, only through Hiranyagarbha. Hiranyagarbha is indeed Godhead. There is no distinction between the two. Is this clear, Arjuna? I am as much Adhidevam as I am Adhibhutam. As much as these two, I am Brahman, Adhyatam and Karma. No distinction exists between them. Now, for the next entity, Adhiyagyam, presiding deity of all sacrifices, activator of all karmas. That is also me. This Adhiyajnam is the entity called Bhokta or experiencer, present in every Deham or body that consumes or experiences the fruits of all the multifarious karmas. I am not only the Karta or doer, the entity responsible for the karma, I am also Bhokta, the recipient of the fruits through the five senses of Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha, who is the indweller and the doer, the motivator of such functions in all. Hence, I am the doer as well as the experiencer. Of course, Krishna was able to open the eyes of Arjuna and clarify this truth, this fact of his being the Adi Yajnam, but ordinary intellectuals may not be able to grasp its implications. It will be easy to understand if we take some illustrations from worldly life. When you want breeze, you switch on the fan. When you want illumination, you switch on the bulbs. When you want to cook, you light the stove. When you want to address a vast audience, you fix up a mic, loudspeakers and amplifiers and switch them on. Or if it is printing you operate the printing press machine with a switch on. Consider these as separate operations and you will notice that they are unrelated to one another. Light and air, heat and sound are unrelated. They are distinct in every way, it would be seen. But for all these, the Karta and the Bhokta, the motivator and the operator is the same, the electric current. The expressions, the manifestations may be different, but the basis, the inspiration, the latency, the base is the same electric current. Like the current, Godhead too operates through all upadhis or manifesting mediums and awards the consequences of all the karmas or activities. He is the data, he is the data or giver of sarva karma phalam, the fruits of all actions. Like the current, he is the inner motivator of all beings, sarva bhut antar atma, the soul eminent in all beings. Since he is the activator of all karmas, he is called Adi Yajnam. The seventh is Pranava or Om, which, when pronounced or contemplated upon at the moment of death, awards merger with the Akshara Parabrahman or the imperishable and ultimate absolute reality itself. When Krishna said this, Arjuna immediately prayed to him to elaborate the point a little more so that he might grasp it clearly. Krishna was only too glad to do so and he explained as follows. Arjuna, Antya Kalam, the moment of death, does not mean some future point of time. It means this very moment can be the last moment. Any moment might turn out to be the moment of death for the Nashvara Shariram or the perishable body. The journey of man after death is molded by the thought that predominates at the moment of death. That thought is the foundation on which the next birth is built. Whoever at that time remembers me attains my glory, reaches me in fact. So each karma of man, every striving of his, every sadhana should be aimed at sanctifying that final moment. The years of life must be devoted to the sadhana or discipline that will bring up at that moment the sacred thought of Pranava. What has to be discarded is the Deham, this physical case. What has to be earned is Parabrahman, the ultimate absolute reality. That which you discard cannot be yours, Swarupam or true nature or reality, and that which is undiscardable, unmodifiable, that Satyam or eternal and Nityam unchanging is your Swarupam. That reality is the entity called Atma, or what is the same thing, Paramatma. Since you are that, you cannot cast it off. Casting off the body is akin to shifting from the house occupied for some years, and birth is entry into a new one. Both these birth and death are physical acts related to Deha, not affecting the Atma. Arjuna, the Atma does not come in nor does it go out. Those who are in Deha Bhranti, falsely identifying oneself with the body, cannot grasp the Atma Tattvam or the reality of the self. The Deha Tattvam is not Sthiram or permanent. Therefore, more than the 6 items mentioned by me already, That which is most important is the kind of bhava, thoughts or feelings or sthiti, manner of acting or standing one should have at the time of death is more essential. All the long years of life devoted to the sadhana are for this consummation. Such devoted sadhana alone will result in bringing up the sacred thought of pranava at the end moment. Karya or effect and karana, cause, have an inseparable connection. You belch the flavor of the food you have taken, isn't it? Your sadgati or attainment of higher state is in accordance with your sadhana or spiritual practice. So, be always aware of the need to fix the mind on holy thoughts when the body is got rid of. That is to say, immerse yourself in holy thoughts every moment of your life. Only then will you be able to get sacred thoughts at the final moment. Then Arjuna inquired, O Lord, has one to strive for it from now on? If one has to get holy thoughts at the last moment of life, can one not get them at that time itself? The Lord realized his doubt and replied, Your intelligence seems to have been blunted a great deal, for you are hesitating to accept the need to develop holy thoughts from now on. Arjuna, the mind has to be trained through Abhyasa Yoga, the discipline of long standing in constant practice. It has to be trained to avoid other thoughts and concentrate on the Lord only. Then only can you reach the Parama Divya Purusha or the Supreme Divine Lord. Unless you systematically teach and train the mind, it will not and cannot remember the Parama Purusha at the moment of death. You might ask me the reason. Well, think of your own case. You are able to use these weapons of offense and defense in the battle that is imminent because you taught yourself the art of handling them since many years, isn't it? Could you have used them with confidence, without preparation on the spur of the moment? Is it ever possible? No. The Kshatriya, warrior, will be called upon to wield. The Kshatriya warrior will be called upon to wield weapons someday or the other in his life. So, regardless of whether he is trained in other forms of art, he is taught this art from childhood so that he may be ready for the emergency. Similarly, whatever else a man may not meet with during life, he is certain to meet with death. So, each one must be trained to have at that time the holy attitude and thought that are most beneficial to him. Otherwise, life itself is a failure, a waste. A person untrained for this consummation has to suffer the fate that will befall him. No one enters a battlefield in order to suffer defeat. So too, no one voluntarily wishes for a downfall. He seeks only progress. Will it not be wise, therefore, to strive for the end you desire in your own best interest? Hence, every man must take earnest steps to secure the thought of the seventh item, the sacred thought of pranava at the last moment of life. Whoever dies in that thought attains me, said Krishna. This is the entire essence of the Gita, for the goal of all man's satkarmas or good actions is to attain the acme of progress, isn't it? That is the urge which makes him engage himself in prathanas or prayers, in japam, that is recitation of name of God, and dhyanam, meditation, in archana or ritual worship, and tapas, austerity. All those who have placed faith in these have to remember the goal throughout and make lives worthwhile. Krishna said that Om or Pranava has to be remembered at the moment of death. There are certain points that require elucidation in connection with this, for there are many who argue that the Pranava can be repeated only by some and that others are not entitled to it. This is wrong. This false conclusion has been arrived at since they do not know the truth. It springs from a mistaken belief. The Gita does not mention this group or that group. Krishna declares, whoever, without any qualifying words, limiting to one class or this gender. He has not even said who deserves or who does not deserve, who is authorized or who is unauthorized. He has only said that for meditation on the pranava, some preliminary disciplines have to be gone through. All those disciplines are control of all the senses and the concentration of the mind on the Lord. For when the mind is flitting from one fancy to another, how can the production of a sound Om, Om by the vocal organs can be of any benefit? The sound will not help to realize God. The senses have to be curbed. Thoughts have to be one-pointed. The glory must be apprehended. That is why the Lord advised that from birth to death, one must be persistently engaged in the search for Satya or truth. Instead, if you postpone sadhana until the last moment, you will be like the student who turns over the pages of his textbook for the first time just before he enters the examination hall. If the student feels that still he has the time of one full year, and if he neglects to learn from the teacher and from lecture notes and from the books, how can anything enter his brain when he opens the pages of his text that very morning of examination? It will only add to his despair. He will not pass the exam. He can be pronounced proficient only in indolence. No tree will yield fruits the moment you plant the seedling in your backyard. To reach that stage, you have to foster it with care over a long period of time, isn't it? Similarly, whatever result you seek, you have to follow carefully without break the process of preparatory disciplines necessary for that result right from the beginning. No one can acquire the fruit or the result without such prior efforts of vigilance and steadfastness. Sadhakas or spiritual aspirants must be aware of this. More than anything else, the yearning must be directed away from how to be born towards how to die. For birth depends on how death takes place. Death comes first, birth happens later. Folks believe that men are born to die and they die so that they may be born. This is a wrong conception. You are born so that you may not be born again. You die so that you may not die again. That is to say, the man who dies must so die that he is not born again. When once you die, you should not be born again to meet another death. Death is inevitable. If you are born, so avoid birth and thereby avoid death. So, the sadhaka should not aspire for a good birth. He should desire a good death. You may be born well, in a good family, or with many favorable circumstances, but subsequent karma may not ensure the next birth to be good. So, if a good death is aimed at, the trouble of being born and becoming once again subject to death can be avoided. Every man born into the world must have the end of life always in view and cultivate good habits of thought and action in order to make that final moment genuinely auspicious. Attaining such a finale is the unmistakable sign of having won the grace of the Lord. Jai Sai Ram.
साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वप्रचोदयात्। ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वप्रचोदयात्। ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वप्रचोदयात्। ॐ